so happy to be talking a little bit about roadblocks to roadmaps. Erum and I have been really looking forward to sharing a little bit about our individual career journeys that have led us to the roles that we're currently in today. And I think you'll find that they've been unique and not paths that we could have predicted. It is so nice to virtually meet all of you. My name is Nazia Ali, Vice President of Product and Engineering for Cox Automotive Sales, Customer Operations, Marketing, and Master Data Enterprise Platforms. I've been with Cox Automotive for almost 7 years. Erum, how about a quick intro?
Hi, I'm Erum Alim, and I am the Senior Product and Technical Program Manager at Fyusion and Cox Automotive. And I've been with Fyusion for about 3 years this month.
Awesome, thanks, Erum. So before we dive into our session, I'd like to start with just a quick background on Cox Automotive and Fyusion. Cox Automotive is the largest automotive solutions provider in the United States, and Fyusion is a visual intelligence company that leverages AI for the automotive industry. So in 2018, one of Cox Automotive's brands, Mannheim, which specializes in auto auctions, became a Fyusion client. And after realizing the value of Fyusion technology, Cox Automotive acquired Fyusion in 2020. So now Fyusion is in the process of integrating into the larger Cox organization. So before we dig into the session today, like I mentioned, we definitely want to share a little bit about our background. Before we get started, though, I want to make sure that you guys think about questions because we will have some time after Erum and I go through some of our career journey information to really solicit questions from you guys and make sure that we can answer and address any thoughts that you have after listening to us share a little bit about our background. My path to starting at Cox was definitely unexpected. I've always worked in technology, but before joining Cox, I always worked in more application development roles, primarily enabling global manufacturing and logistics business functions. And of course, that meant I was traveling a lot, which is often the case when you're really working on enabling a global supply chain. Then in 2011, I became a new mom. And after a few years, around the time when my daughter turned 5, I decided that it was a time that I really should be exploring other roles that I was equally as passionate about, but perhaps wouldn't involve as much travel because I really felt that I was missing a lot of experiences with my little girl. Who of course is now almost 13, and it's a whole other conversation around the middle school experience. But at the time, she was still that sweet little girl that, it was really nice to spend a lot of time with. So I started really kind of poking around and trying to understand what else was out there. And I was hearing a lot about a company named Cox. Friends, neighbors, a lot of people, anyone I was talking about around, really impressive organizations in the Atlanta area that were headquartered here. We're talking about this great company with this awesome culture, and people seem to really love working there. And of course, at the time, I really didn't know that much about Cox. So I started digging in and learning about the different divisions. Cox Enterprises, Cox Communications, Cox Automotive, and I really started to network and get connected with people who worked at Cox. Now, it just so happened to be that in one of these conversations, I was talking to a leader at Cox Automotive, and I learned that there was a role opening soon where they were looking for a leader to drive a scaled agile transformation for their enterprise platforms team. Now, this would have been a completely different role than the software development and more delivery-focused roles that I had been in. It was really going to be a lot of process, agile methodology, and really driving a ways of working transformation. So I had to think long and hard about this because this role would take me on a completely different career path than the one that I had been on. And of course, although I felt that I had the transferable skills for this role, it was different than the work that I had done before. And of course, I had that nagging thought in my head that may be familiar to some of you, which is, will I actually be good at this role? So, of course, long story short, I did end up taking the role, and I'll tell you a little bit about what ended up happening. Cox did turn out to be every bit as awesome as folks had told me that it was going to be. I found the people to be incredibly talented, but still humble and open to new ideas. It was a very supportive culture. It was really everything that I was looking for in that next opportunity. the role itself, this very different role that I was really nervous about, it ended up being a really phenomenal experience because it filled out gaps that I had in my technology experience that I didn't even realize that I had until I was in it and I was learning these new things that really helped me connect the dots. And I did find that I really challenged me as a leader in different ways, and ended up really opening the door for further opportunities to take on new challenges and really build on this experience. So that's a little bit about how I ended up at Cox. Erum, how about you?
Yeah, that's such a wonderful journey, Nazia. Thank you for sharing. And it definitely, I think we can resonate to a certain extent. All of us have similar experiences, right? Unlike you, I've not always been in tech. I started off in advertising. That was my first, career path when I started working, and the fast-paced environment really excited me. I was like, okay, this is what I can take on, and I would love to be in this sort of environment. And then I wanted to try different things. I did not always know that I wanted to be in tech. I didn't know where I wanted to go, so I explored. I joined real estate. I was like, I want to have my own gig. And this was in Malaysia. So I wanted to manage properties and deal with interior designing, some of these high-end properties for foreign clients. And that was a market that no one had tapped into at that time. It gave me the flexibility to do my MBA as well as have my own schedule and just pick up new skills, right? Whether it was project management, whether it was financial management for people who are investing in a foreign country, purchasing homes. And then I was like, okay, I think this is good. I moved to the States and I started wanting to help the community more. So I was like, I want to be in an area where I can make direct impact. So that's something that I figured I wanted to do. And I joined a hospital and ran their operations. And then I was like, okay, the first taste of technology I got was working at Google. I joined their indoor mapping team, and I started off as a field associate and moved up to leading the operations for North America. So that was building policies, and again, a lot of operations management, project management, some product improvements. And I was like, okay, I'm liking this. I think, as much as I was running away from coding and pure tech, I was like, I enjoy this. That's when I figured out, I want to really immerse myself into technology. And VR was a thing that was starting up. And I was like, I want my next gig to be something really cool. I'm an aunt to a couple of nieces and nephews, and they're younger, so I always want to inspire and show them hey, my job's cool. So I got into VR when it wasn't as popular, but we started providing virtual reality content for sports events, and this is what I did for Intel Sports. And I was like, this is really cool. And but it was not always glamorous, right? There were jobs that nobody wanted to do, like being an on-site engineer. It's getting your hands dirty. It's trying to set up Linux machines. And I was like, okay, is there a script? I don't know much about these things. Can I just follow a script and just type it in and get the work done? Because I'm passionate about making life simpler and easier for everyone around me, especially my team, and keeping the operations moving. So they were like, are you sure you want to do this? I'm like, yes, I think it's exciting. I think, it'll accomplish something and I can see the impact of my work, and that will translate into success. So yes, it was tough. It's not glamorous. I had to move cables around at times for things and do hardware management. It's a lot of new learning, right? But I think that's what excites me. That's what motivates me, to constantly learn, to constantly grow, and just immerse myself in the latest technology and make an impact. So after that, of course, COVID happened, and there was no VR events. There were no events. Unfortunately, the whole group had to shut down because we were all in a lockdown. And that's when I started thinking, where do I see myself next? I knew it had to be in tech because by this time I was like, okay, this is what excites me. AI machine learning was something that was up and coming, and that's when Fusion's recruiter reached out, and I thought this is a great place to work. I interviewed, and the more I talked to the people, the more I felt like this is the kind of environment I want to be in. These are the kind of people I want to surround myself with, And sure enough, like the more people I met at Cox Automotive, like I asked them, like, "Oh, how long have you been at Cox?" And everyone was like, 15 years, 20 years. And I was like, wow, this must be like really awesome. Like they started off and their journeys are unique. So I think it's been an amazing experience. So yeah, that's a little bit about my career path.
That is just fascinating. So I was writing that down, I'm sure I've missed something, but starting in advertising, then real estate, and then you're in virtual reality, and then now, where you are at Fyusion. And what I like that you shared there, Erum, is really it's about that growth mindset. You know, it's totally okay to not have your whole path paved out and figured out. It would be very unrealistic to even try to do that. It's about really always thinking about growing and learning. And what I love about your journey is that willingness to take risks and try different things, right? So maybe let's share a little bit about what we're doing today. So currently, as I was saying, in my role at Cox, I'm really responsible for enabling sales, customer operations, and our marketing functions with technology. That's probably a combine between our sales folks, our marketers, and the folks that are really supporting our customer operations and our contact centers. It's probably somewhere between 5,000 to 6,000 team members that really need to use technology to do their day-to-day roles. So my organization has about 170 team members across product owners, product managers, software engineers, architects, agile practitioners, and they're all working together in a very matrixed way in the scaled agile construct to deliver these technology solutions to our business stakeholders. We have been in, I would say, a very transformational space over the past couple of years, and I think this is going to continue, this transformation, for another 2 to 3 years before I really feel like we're in a bit more of a steady state. And that's because we've been really working hard to make sure that our sales team members, our marketers, our customer operations teams can operate in a very seamless way across all of our Cox Automotive brands, because we do have a lot of brands. And we need to make sure that when we go to market and when we're working with our customers every day, that we're showing up as one Cox Automotive, just as Cox Automotive, not as a specific brand. And to do that, really, it's necessary for all of our sales team members, our contact center team members, our marketers to be able to have just one view of our clients across all of their purchasing history, in terms of all of their preferences, and really be able to support them in a very holistic and personalized way and make sure that they're having a fantastic customer experience. In terms of the technology, it's primarily Salesforce that we operate on, but there has been a lot of great work in more recent months to really look at new technology capabilities. Particularly, I mean, you all have probably been hearing a lot about generative AI, and there's some pretty exciting things that we're doing around really looking at the application of generative AI in the enterprise context, right? So how do you really use this cutting edge capability in ways to ensure that our employees, our sales team members, or marketers, or contact center agents can really be even more productive in how they're doing their day-to-day work, and we can make it an even more seamless experience for them. So that's just a little bit about what I'm doing these days. Erum, how about you?
Yeah, that's, I don't know how to follow up with that, but just a little bit, Nazia, but that's jam-packed. Yes, I can't even imagine like all the different tools, technologies, and managing people. But yes, pretty similar to that. Like at Fyusion and Cox Automotive, we're trying to come up with, solutions that impact and make the lives of the auctions easier. So I'm the product and a senior technical program manager. So we have to wear a lot of different hats for this role, right? Whether it's the inception of an idea to execution and then beyond. Because once we've executed, deployed our software and hardware, we also have to maintain it. So what we do is we are trying to come up with a damage analysis solution, and it's a tunnel that we built to drive through the cars and do imaging packages for the dealers, as well as damage analysis. So everything from operations, it depends. No day looks the same for us. When you talk about product management, understanding the pain points of the operations team, how can we make their lives easier, delivering solutions and tools that will empower them to not depend on anyone, ensuring that the production is having zero downtime. And it's an amazing experience. But for program management, we are scaling. So we're building a ton of these tunnels across the country, and that requires a template that we can rinse and repeat, and also learn from the experience while managing the software development lifecycle day to day. Yeah.
Wonderful. It's actually very awesome that the technology, the imaging technology that you're focused on developing, Erum. I've seen some of the demos, and actually I'm looking forward to seeing it live pretty soon at my next auction visit.
Excellent.
So really at this point, hopefully we've given you all some food for thought. Now, whether you're just fascinated at what it means to really being able to navigate sort of an unexpected career path, or maybe you might even be on the brink of making a decision that might be off the beaten path of what you expected, what thoughts and questions do you have for us? And don't be shy.
What led you to start in this industry? I'll tell you about myself. Like for me, I think, like I mentioned, I knew after trying out all the different industries that technology is where I want to be in, cutting edge technology, innovative space. And for that, industry didn't matter. However, I happened to have fallen into automotive, and it was great because that's something that impacts us. We all have cars or know people who have cars, and just ensuring that the impact is visible and tangible of the product that I'm building really excites me. That's for me. Nazia, do you want to share what?
I think you answered that perfectly well. So we have a few more questions here. So one of them, what should you be looking for in a company when exploring new and different opportunities? What I would highly recommend when looking at perhaps a new company or a different role and opportunity, and then Erum, feel free to add on to this as well. I think it's really important to look for a culture that kind of promotes and supports growth and trying different things. And you can pick up on a lot of it from just talking to folks that have had, as Erum was saying before, long careers at the company that you're interested in. So have they always been in one role? Have they really navigated and rotated a lot? Because typically companies that are very supportive of internal movement are also going to be supportive of you being in an entirely new role where you're having to learn new things and you don't have all of the answers on day one. The other thing to perhaps think about when you're stepping into this space as well is to really look for companies that support the notion of a career lattice. Have you all heard about a career lattice versus a career ladder? And Cox, one thing I really love about the Cox environment is that it really does support a career lattice. That's often what we talk about. We don't talk about a ladder. We don't talk about sort of the only way to move is up. We talk about how sometimes it totally makes sense to take a lateral movement or move sort of left, right, and sideways and do other opportunities versus just constantly taking on bigger roles. Perhaps you're moving sideways and taking on a new learning experience or moving into a new functional area, because that's often what our careers are like. They're very sort of, this sort of a unique path that each of us has. No one person is the same, and no one person's career path should be the same. Erum, what do you think?
I completely agree, and you've said it so beautifully, right? Like the career lattice, and also like the fact that no two people's journeys are ever the same. That's why, like, we can give you a recipe that's worked, but my philosophy is always don't have preconceived notions like, oh, it didn't work for so and so, or like, people say, I've seen some questions about like, a product management being a stressful job, but know that don't limit yourself with preconceived notions. Know that your journey is going to be unique. And I think, Nazia, you've said that, like, everyone's journey is unique. Your experiences are going to be your experiences. And if you keep in mind that you're going to have fun, you're going to keep an open mind, be curious, like a student mentality, and be fearless, go for it. I would say, like, I would encourage every woman out here to just be fearless.
Awesome. Great stuff there, Erum. Okay, this is my favorite question. And Erum, I'll let you go first because otherwise I could just talk for a really long time about this. So someone asked, did you have mentors and or sponsors that assisted in your migration to these roles?
Excellent question, right? I think I did in at Intel Sports, like when I was working there, that's where I learned the concept of like having advocates, having mentors, and being coaches. So yes, there were mentors that I followed, and I would know, like I would follow certain people and let them know that I would love for you to mentor me. Like, how did you get here? But also keeping in mind that their journey again is unique, and I'm going to take what I feel I can resonate best with, and always having advocates. So you have to build your community wherever you are, and it doesn't have to be a fellow like woman in tech, but also advocates who could be your male managers. But building the community is definitely important, and I think yes, I would learn from my own experiences as well, like what I want and don't want in the experience, and also continue coaching whoever had any questions for me, like mentoring them, coaching them, and just passing on the knowledge that I learned along the way.
That is fantastic. I really can't add actually too much to that, Erum. I feel like we have a connection there on this topic. The notion of the community, none of us can achieve what we want in our career paths on our own. It's so important to have a support system, to Erum's point. And the only thing I would add is the notion of a sponsor. Mentors and sponsors are different, and you need both of them. At least that's what I've experienced in my career. Mentors are folks who really give you guidance and can teach you things, and you can really have a safe space to bounce ideas off of them. Sponsors are people who are out there championing for you. So when you want to go get that next role, and it might be an unexpected role, it might be something different, you need someone out there who's willing to say, you know what, you can take a chance on that person. You can take a chance on Erum. This might not be exactly the kind of role that she's done before, but she has the skills to do it. That's a sponsor and that's a champion. And so really having the mentors, the advocates, Erum, as you said, and then also having the sponsors and really focusing on building that support system is a really great investment of your time. Erum, why don't you pick the next question?
Okay, let me see. There's so many good questions, and unfortunately, we only have a few minutes. You can reach out to myself on LinkedIn at Erum Alim, and let me know that you attended the Women in Tech and had more questions if I can't get to your questions. But I think, how do you manage your role while preventing burnout? This is really good, right? I feel it's I'll let you answer this first because yes.
Without preventing burnout. It's really important to know what your goals are. It's also really important to know what your priorities are. And I don't mean just like your work priorities. I mean, never lose sight of your personal priorities. And keep all of that in focus all of the time. And every day is going to feel like a balance. And, there are going to be some days that feel more challenging than others. But I will say that other than, making sure you're focused on priorities and making sure you're driving a balance, probably these are all things that you've heard before. I'll give you one very, very important thing to prevent burnout. And this is something we all can do. Please take vacations. Take some time for yourself. It's often very difficult to do that. We're so busy. I find myself doing that too. Oh, I can't take PTO right now, or I can't go do this trip because there's just so much going on. You have to. It's the only way that you're going to be able to disconnect and come back energized and just back in the right headspace. Everyone needs that time to just disconnect. And when you go on vacation, just disconnect. Don't, be checking your email and doing all these things. You really, really need to clear that headspace. I know it's hard to do, and I know for some of us it might be really hard to pry ourselves away from work, but I tell my folks that all the time. Please don't join a meeting or check your email or do whatever you feel like you need to do. You're on vacation. You're with either you're with your friends, you're with yourself, you're with your family, whatever you are doing in that moment, focus on that moment. And trust me, you'll come back better for it.
Excellent advice. I think, it's hard definitely for us to disconnect. I would say that for myself, initially, but you're absolutely right. If we don't disconnect, we're not going to be 100% when we do attend those calls and meetings, right? When you're not going to give your 100% unless you've rested 100% and disconnected and taken that time off and taken that vacation, because there's so much going on. You have to have that balance. I completely agree. Especially as a fairly new mom with a 2-year-old toddler, you need to have that balance. You need to give your time 100% to your family, your loved ones, or your personal life, whether it's just your me time, and then come back and give your 100% at work. So excellent advice. And I know we're cutting it close. We have 2 minutes left. So Nazia, any closing, advice for us here?
So I'll give 3 things. Don't say no. Be open to new opportunities. Be open to trying new things. Sometimes we try to pave ourselves a very, very narrow scope of the types of roles that we'd be interested in. Just be open and make sure you learn and explore. Be very thoughtful about the company. That would be my tip number 2. Be very thoughtful about the companies that you choose to enable your career goals, and make sure that their values align with your own. And it's what you're looking for. And when that alignment happens, it's magic. Also, on that note, be very thoughtful about the leader that you work for. That has a very big impact on your day-to-day. And, someone who's really supportive of letting you take risks, trying new things, and just has complete blind confidence in you, that would be an incredible experience. How about you, Erum?
Yeah, I think those are such beautiful, words of wisdom, truly. I think those were excellent advice, and it's a good reminder for us, even for myself, hearing that. And I'll give roughly 3 advices as well. Of course, I've mentioned be curious, what you said, echoing to what Nazia just mentioned. Have that learning mentality, student mentality. Be fearless. Don't be afraid of taking risks. Also be adaptable. So I think that's important as well. When you're learning, you have to be able to mold into what you think might work best, not just for the company, but also for yourself. It's a 2-way street, right? It's not just give. It's also what can be, how you contribute, and what does the company do for you. So that's of course great, and Cox has done great at that, as we've mentioned. And I'm sure there's another session tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken, discussing about HR and a little bit about the benefits of working at Cox. But yes, the other thing I would say is do something that you feel passionately about, and that will automatically motivate you, excite you, and you will give your 100% because you feel passionately about it. Whether it's the product, whether it's the company, whether it's the cause, be passionate. If you're not passionate about it, then think twice, explore, move on. But use every experience as a stepping stone. Every experience has something to teach you. Even if it's negative, right? Even if you didn't like something, hey, then you know that this is something that I do not want in my next job, or this is not the kind of team I want to work at. But yeah, I know we're a minute over, but thank you.
No, that was fantastic, Erum. Thank you all so much for joining us today. There was a lot of questions we didn't get to, and if you have any others, please keep the conversation going and reach out to Erum and I. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day, your evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much.